Welcome back to my channel. I'm Traven, and in today's video I'll be doing a review for the comic book Somna. Somna is a comic book distributed by a brand new name in the industry. Distillery, I believe, is how their name is meant to be pronounced. They describe themselves as a fresh new voice in the comic book scene and are very pointedly attempting to get well-known creators within the comic book industry and allowing them to write creator-owned content. It is one of those independent comic book publishers where the creators, the writers, and the artists have a lot more control over what they write and how they present that art. Distillery is also distinct in that its comic books are in this more square format. They're very distinct from the Marvel, DC, Image comic books. In fact, at my comic book shop, they have a separate section for the Distillery, a separate display, because they would not fit in to the display area they have for other comics. As far as I can tell, Distillery comics are very adult-oriented, and Somna especially so. The story follows Ingrid, a pilgrim woman menaced by recurring nightmares of a man entering her room and doing very sensual things with her. This comic is a collaborative effort from Becky Cloonan and Tula Lote. They utilize their very different art styles in order to jump between Ingrid's sleeping world and her waking world. Lote has the more ephemeral, smoky art style that's very like evanescent and very apt for a dreamlike moment. Cloonan, who has the more straightforward art style for the waking world when Ingrid is just going about her day-to-day life. Ingrid is plagued by these recurring nightmares. She's restless. She's not able to sleep. There's a lot in here about sexual repression and about equality, the life of a pilgrim woman, and not having equal say, not having any kind of power within the community. The crux of the story is best summed up in one of the quotes here. Ingrid has the thought, "No matter how frightening the dreams become, it's far more dangerous here in the waking world." Ingrid's real life is fraught with accusations of witchcraft against seemingly innocent people, corrupt officials, corrupt clergy, people in her life who either ignore her completely and ignore her needs and ignore her desires, or put up a false front and end up being very manipulative individuals. What the story is able to do in establishing, okay, this art style is for her nightmares and for her dreams and when she's asleep, and this art style is for when she's awake, is as the comic goes on, it continues to play with that. So there are moments where it has the dreamlike, ephemeral art style, and she feels like she's dreaming, or she believes she's dreaming, but it's unclear whether or not she is. She's seeing things that she would not otherwise have known had she not actually been awake in that moment. And it kind of makes sense in that she is overworked and exhausted, and so is probably like falling asleep while she's at church and drifting off and having these like these moments in her life that feel dreamlike, and the art is representing that as well. But then it gets to a point where the dream art and the real life art have completely switched places. There's a moment where it has that dreamlike quality to it, and a character said, "Oh, good, you're awake." And then she has a part later on where she says that she'd wish for one last dream, and while she's having this vision, this dream, it's in the art style of the waking world. That play between dreams and reality is very compelling, and I think thematically is the core of what this book is trying to talk about. It's another one of these titles where it's unclear by the very end what has actually occurred within the story, because so much of it relies on whether or not the moments in her dream are real or not. They're just perceived. Is this just her being sexually repressed and yearning for freedom, and is manifesting as this demon or this person coming to her at night, or is there an actual demon there? Is witchcraft real? Is devilry real? And she is being seduced to the dark side throughout the course of the book. It's not a book that's going to give you easy answers with that. Much like Closer, another possession book, it does a very good job of writing the line and using that art style, that back and forth art style, to really play with your expectations and to make it unclear at the end what's really going on. Either way that you interpret it, it is a satisfying story. You either have a story of a woman who is grappling with her emotions and grappling with her lack of power, her lack of freedom, and is slowly losing grip on what is real and what isn't, and you're dragged into that as well because you as the reader have a hard time perceiving truth and reality. It puts you in the character's situation so you can empathize with what's going on. Or you have a more straightforward, a more literal interpretation, which still gives you this like Salem witch trial setting, the story of demonic possession. Up to the last panel of this comic, you don't know what is the truth, and even the last panel is so ambiguous as to make it to where either interpretation is valid. When I read through it the first time and I got to that ending and I was like, what? I felt like I had to go back for a second round through it, knowing where the story was heading and knowing kind of the ideas that it was going to present further into the book. And I'm glad I did, because I feel like that second read gave me more perspective on some of the maybe foreshadowing it's doing, or the stylistic elements, the motifs that run throughout the story. So I've already mentioned that the art for the dream world seems very like smoky, and lines are very blurred within that. There's a lot of talk with Ingrid. Her husband is a witch hunter, and there's talk after he goes to a burning that that smell of smoke lingers on him. So you have that motif within the dreams as well. The dreams are like smoke, and they're clinging to her waking world, and now she's having a hard time differentiating the two. Within the dreams, there's also a lot of imagery with like dripping blood, or with little like fire, like sparks of flame that run across the panel, and those also play into events that occur later on. Distillery is writing more adult-centered content, and I have to stress with Somna that is very much something you should probably know going into it. This is a very adult-oriented book. This is not for kids. This is not for teens. It's very explicitly about sex in a lot of different ways. Ingrid's primary thing, the way that her repression manifests, is with sexual desire. And so that plays out in her dreams, all the things that she is not getting from her husband, who is too busy because he has to go to the next town over and hunt witches. And does not, shuns her advances, shuts her down, tells her to calm down and like get a hold of herself. But you need to know, like, there is nudity throughout this book. There are very explicit scenes and very heavily implied moments within here that would not be appropriate for teens, for children. Even though it's called a bedtime story, it's labeled as a bedtime story. It's a bedtime story for adults. And I do think that sensuality, that sexuality also plays well within the kind of horror gothic aspect of it. I'm not trying to be a prude and say like, oh, don't read it. It's got nudity in it. I'm just saying, like, be aware that is an element of the book. I gave Somna a 5 out of 5. I feel like this is one that I could go into and really analyze the artistry of it, just the art of it, where the motifs that blend through here, the play with fantasy and reality, just trying to think about what that last panel means has been like playing in my mind all this week as I've been thinking about the book and reflecting on it and trying to come up with, you know, what is the best interpretation, which one has the stronger evidence. The ideas in here, I think, are adult oriented, yes, but still universal. Everyone can identify with the need for freedom, for autonomy, and it might, you know, it's not manifesting the way that it is for Ingrid, but we can still identify with this person who's not getting what they want out of life and is their mind therefore is building that up in their dreams or their nightmares. I also have to say that the art is simply fantastic. I particularly like the dream parts. I feel like that art is really beautiful and haunting in a way that works really well for the story that's being told. If you are a fan of something like Closer, these more ambiguous horror stories, it compares this to Midsummer, which I've not watched, but also to The Witch, which I have, and I think that that's an apt comparison. It's a slower moving, more maybe cerebral is the right word. I don't know, like A24 artsy kind of feel to this horror story, and it still has all those elements that I really like, those supernatural elements, the horror to it, done in a way that's very beautiful and very sensual. And so if that is something that you're looking for, this is an excellent pick, and I would highly recommend that you take a look at it. That's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope your reading journey is going well. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you've read Somna, give me your thoughts down below. Do you read it as a literal demonic possession? Do you read it as more of on an interpretive level? What did you think about the art? If you've read anything else from Distillery, is there anything else I should look at and pick up? I'm very much interested in Spectrograph, which I know is a James Tynion title that they're putting out. And so that one will be one that I probably get in the future. I'm curious if there are any other titles I should look into. Let me know down below your thoughts, and until the next one, take care.